my name is Molly, and today we are here to discuss all the books that I read in the month of February and all the books that I plan to read in the month of March. February was a successful reading month in the fact that I read more books than I read in January, but unsuccessful in the fact that I wanted to kind of keep it a book a week, so 4 books a month basically, and I was not able to do that. I only read 3 books this month, but it's a short month, so I'm going to cut myself a little bit of slack, and I'm hoping to make up for the books that I haven't read these past 2 months this month, because March is going to be a super long month just because of school and things that I have going on, and so it's just going to be a long month, and so I'm hoping that because it feels long, I'll get more reading done because I'll feel like I have more time. So I have a really big TBR to tell you guys about, but first, let's dive into the books I read in the month of February. So the first book I read in the month of February was The Call by Peter O'Gillen. This book is very interesting, but also very dark and twisted. It takes place in Ireland, and it's a world where the Irish banished these monsters to this like hellscape. It's dark and it's disgusting and it's gross, and disgusting and gross mean the same thing, and it's crazy. It's not somewhere you would ever want to go. And so these monsters want revenge on the humans, obviously, because they're like, well, you banished us, so now I'm gonna kill you. So what they do is they take teenagers at any time could get called, and calls only last 3 minutes in this world, but they last like a full day in the monster world, and so these kids are taken and they go and they wake up like naked in this different world, and they have to survive those 3 minutes or full day. Most don't survive. 9 out of 10 I think don't make it back, or they make it back but they're dead and mutated, and it's really bad. Throughout this book you follow a bunch of different stories of all these kids who go to a survival school to learn how to survive their call, and a lot of crazy stuff goes down. You find there's this bigger conspiracy going on, and it's said to be reminiscent of the Hunger Games, which I could see. I definitely expected a little bit more from this book. Like, after I finished it, I was kind of like, if this was a movie, it would be a horror movie. So if you're into that type of thing, then you can definitely read it. I think you'd enjoy it. So the next book that I read in the month of February was End of Days by Susan E. This is the 3rd and final book in the Angel Fall series, and it's so sad that I finally finished this series because I don't want it to end. I don't want this series to be over because Angel Fall is one of my favorite books ever, and so it's over now. Like, I'm never gonna read this world again, and that's really sad because I love the characters, I love the story, I just love everything about these books. And so, yeah. Like I said, Angel Fall was the first book, and it's about an angel apocalypse. So the angels are not as good as they are always made out to be, and they come down on the world, and it's really interesting because in the first book you just get this apocalyptic feel, but then in the second and third book you start to get the feel of like the politics of the world, and it's nice. I feel like it's a very real series. Like, it's not humanity bands together to fight. Like, it takes a lot for the characters to get people involved and in the fight, and by the end they are, but it's such a long journey getting there that it feels so real, and I really enjoyed this series, and I highly recommend picking up Angel Fall if you haven't yet. Oh, I wish this series wasn't over because I want more. When I finished this book I was like, nope, that's not it. It can't be it. I need more. Like, it's a good ending, but I need more. So the final book I read in the month of February was The Edge of Everything by Jeff Giles. This book looks like a contemporary, but it is not a contemporary. It is a book about this bounty hunter who comes from the depths of, like, hell, and his job is to collect souls, but of course he has to meet a girl, and of course the girl changes his views on his job and his life. Just from that synopsis, I was sold. I was like, yes, this is exactly what I want to read right now. And then I actually read it, and I was disappointed. I did not like the characters at all. I felt like they were very unrealistic. Just in the fact that the relationships in the book worked, I just wasn't a fan. I was talking to my friend about this the other day. It felt very insta-love. Like, it was like they saw each other and then all of a sudden he was ready to give up everything he's ever known for her. And not in a cute way, in a like weirdly desperate, just like, dude, you've said 3 words to her. Like, it was just, they weren't together most of the book, but most of the book was spent talking about each other and how they wanted to get back to each other, and like, it felt like a second book in the series, you know, after you've already been introduced to the characters and after you've already gotten to know them and their relationship, and they've already gotten to the point where it's like, okay, yes, we're separated and we want to see each other. But this is the first book, and so I wasn't the biggest fan of the characters, and I think that kind of ruined the story for me. The story itself, the plot line, was pretty cool. It was pretty interesting, but the characters just ruined the book for me, and the relationships that they had, I wasn't a fan of. Alright guys, so now we're going to dive into the books that I want to read in the month of March. I have a lot of books on this list, guys. Like, it's about 10 books long, and I'm not saying I want to finish all these books this month, but within the next 2 months, I want to read all these books. And so it's going to be hard, but I'm hoping to read a lot of them during March. And so I'm just going to tell you all of them, and then the ones that I don't finish will be seen again in my April TBR. So the first 2 books I have to tell you guys about were actually sent to me for review, so I really want to read them this month. So the first book that was sent to me for review was Cruel Reality by C.J. Whitley. Now, this book is very interesting. It's a very interesting concept, and I'm actually reading it right now. We follow this one kid who's in his 20s, I believe, and he is kidnapped by these masked people, and he wakes up in the hold of a ship. There's just all these random people in this ship with him, and nobody knows why they're there, nobody knows who took them, and they're all just kind of trying to figure out what happened. And that's all I really know about the book so far, because that's as far in as I am. I'm only on chapter 7, I think. So I'm slowly working my way through this book. I can't wait to finish it because it sounds like the beginning of a really interesting book. And so I'm just hoping that the rest of the book is exciting. So the second book that I was sent for review was Service Goat by Piers Anthony. I received an email from the publisher for this book. I read the synopsis for it, and it's such a weird concept. Even the title, Service Goat, I was like, what? And so after reading the synopsis, I haven't started this one yet, but it sounds like it's a book about a girl who, instead of having a service dog, has a service goat. And this goat has magical powers. And so she teams up with this kid and her goat, and they have to go and take out some big, bad, evil thing. I don't know. And I was just like, this is so weird, but like in a good way. Like, I was like, this is such a quirky and interesting concept that I was like, I have to read this. Like, I don't know, I'm just, it's so quirky, like, that's the only word I can think for it. Alright guys, so now the first physical book I have to show you for my TBR, I actually finished this morning, but I figured I'd include it on my TBR anyway because it was in the pile, and that is Rise of Fire by Sophie Jordan. This is the second and final book in the Reign of Shadow series. I was totally not ready for it to end. I didn't think it would end. I thought it was a trilogy, and then I got to the end, and it was an epilogue, and I was like, no! You can't leave, I'm not ready for you to be done yet. Reign of Shadows came out last year, and it is a book about a world that has a, was it 10-year-long? Something like that, eclipse. And so it's always dark, and the darkness has forced mutations to happen in, like, animals and stuff. So there's these, like, evil bats that just come out of everywhere, and they eat people, and they... Oh, it's so crazy, but it's so good, and Reign of Shadows ended on such a cliffhanger, and this book picked up right where it left off, and I was just like, I need to finish it, so I did, and oh my god, guys, it was so good. It was so good. Please read this series. Please, for me, just please read this series. It's so good. The 2 main characters are like my favorite characters ever. I love them so much. So the next book I have on my TBR is actually a book that I have to read for school, and it's like a school book club type thing that we have, and so it is The Book Thief by Marcus Zuzak. This is a book that's very popular, and you should all know. It was made into a movie, and it is a book that takes place in World War II, I believe, and it is told in the perspective of death, which I didn't know the first time I tried reading this book, so I was very confused. I was like, who's telling this story? And then I put it down for a little while, and then I was watching videos, and somebody was like, oh yeah, death tells it. And I was like, what? And so I find that very interesting. It's a very interesting concept, and I'm excited to get to this eventually. I'm not really in the mood to read it right now, but I have to read it before April, so I'll read it eventually this month. Next book I have on my TBR is actually an arc that doesn't come out until May, and that is The One Memory of Flora Banks by Emily Barr. I was so excited when I got this arc because I saw this book in Christine's video, and it sounded so good. It's a cutesy contemporary about a girl who doesn't remember anything before she was 13, I think. She has like short-term memory. She can't remember anything, and she remembers her first kiss or something like that. I'm not really sure, but it sounds so cutesy. My friend Anna from Unquenchable Reads, I'll link her channel down below, and I both got this book in the mail, and we decided, you know what, we're gonna buddy read it. So I'm excited to get to this book eventually, and I don't know when I'll get to it because I don't want to read a contemporary right now because I'm on like a dystopian fantasy kick, and if I start reading contemporaries, I'll just totally dive into contemporaries, and I need to read some other books first, so I don't know when I'll get to this, but hopefully soon. The next book I have, my friend is dying for me to read, and that is Slammed by Colleen Hoover. I have only read one Colleen Hoover book, and that was Confess, and I really, really liked it. And then the other day, when my friend and I were in Barnes & Noble, we went looking for Colleen Hoover books because she loves Colleen Hoover, and we found Slammed, and she was like, you have to read it. She was telling me about it. I was like, I have to read it now. And it's so cute. There's like poetry in the book, and it's just like a romantic, I believe she's considered new adult, but oh my god, guys, I can't wait to read this book. But like I said before, I don't really want to read contemporaries right now. The next book on the list is Words in Deep Blue by Kath Crowley. This is also an arc. It doesn't go on sale till June, but I received it in the mail, and it's really tiny, and I'm really excited to be getting to it. I've never heard of this book, but I got it in the mail, and I was reading the synopsis, and it sounds so interesting. It's about this girl, and she finds out she's moving away, so she writes her crush a note in his parents' bookstore, and then she has to move back to this town after a tragedy, and a tragedy happened to her old crush, too, and so they start a relationship again, or they want to start a relationship again. There's like all this angst between them, and it sounds so good. And yet another contemporary that I really, really want to read. And oh guys, I want to read it so bad. It sounds so cute. I can't. Finally, a book that's not a contemporary on the pile is Blood Rose Rebellion by Rosalind Eves. This book goes on sale this month, which is exciting, but I have the ARC version of it, and I've seen a bunch of buzz surrounding this book, but I didn't know what it was. Like, I've never read anything about it, I've just seen it everywhere, and so I was reading it, and it actually sounds so interesting. This book is about a girl, and she lives in this world where magic is a commodity, like, you know, it's out there, and she is born into this long line of magic users, but she can't use magic, and so she kind of has to hide that ability, and then she gets this job where she needs magic, and she finds this underlying power in herself, and it makes it really dangerous for her, and it sounds like just such a good fantasy book, and I'm so excited to read it. And the final book on this never-ending TBR is King's Cage by Victoria AVR. This is the third book in the Red Queen series. It's 4 books now, not 3, and I am excited for this book because Glass Sword left off on such a cliffhanger. I've heard it's really good, but I've also heard it ends on another cliffhanger, so yay! But I still really want to get to this soon. I have a Red Queen book talk if you guys want to know more about Red Queen and the series, and I'll leave that linked down below. Alright guys, so that's it for my never-ending TBR. Let me know if you've read any of these books or if you're planning to read any of these books. Alright guys, so that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I try to upload a video every week. If you like my videos, then subscribe, and I'll see you next time.